Hello, my name is Stacy Slate, and I am the Community Manager at the Edible Schoolyard Project. And along with my co-host Julianne, I want to welcome our 3 participating school garden programs and a community question author and everyone watching to our Growing Food Education in Schools Google Hangout.
We are really excited to be joined by programs from Oregon to California to West Virginia. And in this Hangout, we're going to be asking these garden experts a few questions on how they got their program started, how they get them up and running, and then we're going to have our community member ask questions that have been shared on social media. So let's begin with each of our programs. Julia, do you want to start us off with an introduction about your program?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet all of you in this Hangout. I am the Executive Director of the Garden School Foundation, and we're a small nonprofit that runs a very big garden program at a school in South Los Angeles. We currently serve the students at that school and then do lots of tours and consult with other groups around the city. And we're also about to publish our K-5 curriculum, which we're really excited about, and we'll start working with other schools this fall. So our program encompasses mostly science classes and then cooking classes, and the kids at the school come out throughout the entire school year to do classes. So that's us.
Great. Anne, do you maybe want to tell us about your program? Anne, do you maybe want to tell us about your program?
Sure. I'm Ann Lupo. I'm the assistant principal here at North Elementary, and joining me, we've got a small team put together who is kind of the grease of our program. So I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll share a little bit about what our program is.
I'm Laura Van Horn. I teach kindergarten here at North Elementary.
I'm Jim Rye, and I'm a collaborative faculty in residence to the school, and I work at West Virginia University in science education.
I'm Melissa Fornash, and I teach 2nd grade here at North.
And my name is Natalie Webb, and I'm the principal here at North Elementary.
So our program, we are a school of pre-K through 5th grade, and we have about 760 students. Our program started with a small grant written in the fall of 2010, and we broke ground in the spring of 2011 with 13 raised beds. And we've got an all-encompassing curriculum with reading, language arts, math, science, social studies, and our nutrition's getting in there too. So we are growing, I think, a little bit more rapidly than we thought we would, which is really exciting.
That's great. Sarah, do you want to tell us about your program?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Sullivan, and I'm the Garden Program Coordinator at Abernathy Elementary School in Portland, Oregon, which is in southeast Portland in the city center. We have about 480 children, K through 5, and our garden program is the garden class is like a special, so the kids come out of their main classroom for about an hour a week. And the garden class works in tandem with the kitchen, or the school cafeteria, which is serving as Portland Public Schools' test kitchen for more locally sourced, nutritious meals made from scratch.
Thank you all. Successful garden-based education programs they're effective in teaching students the value of knowing where their food comes from and how to grow and harvest it. So I'm wondering, as leaders of your programs, if you all could share what makes your model particularly successful. Anne, would you like to start?
Sure. I think our program, we've got a lot of pieces to our puzzle that makes our program successful, and we are in close relationship with West Virginia University, and like Dr. Rye mentioned, he is a faculty resident here at North. He works closely with our teachers in developing their lessons. We've got strong community ties with our West Virginia University Extension offices, master gardeners. Our cafeteria ladies in the back are on board with our program as far as our composting, and we're slowly going to start incorporating foods from our garden into what we're serving in our cafeteria. We also have a great custodial staff that helps put together our grow labs and our worm bins. So we've got a lot of buy-in, and we've got people who are truly dedicated to our program. I don't know if you guys want to add.
Well, and I think it's grown. I think it's the other faculty and the staff have seen the excitement that the kids had in the classrooms where it started. Everybody's been anxious to get on board, so it's grown pretty quickly that way.
Yeah, we went from 7 teachers when it first started, and now we're up to 30 teachers out of a staff of 50 who are using garden education in the curriculum. So it's very exciting.
I would say that the key thing to sustaining the program is that it can't be something extra, and that is we use it to teach. We use it to teach disciplines that have to be taught to meet standards, so on and so forth. So really the garden is a vehicle, and a very authentic vehicle for teaching, reading, math, science, and so on.
And it makes it real world.
Yeah, we're joining forces with our local farmers market, and we were a presence there this past summer. So the students were bringing in that business aspect of farming and gardening and harvesting. So we're bringing in those real world experiences, and I think that's another piece to our success.
That's amazing to hear how you've grown from having 7 teachers buying in to having 30 teachers, because that's showing that it's really connecting with your population and really getting that your pupils or students are really benefiting from it. So that's amazing to hear. Thank you. Julia, do you want to maybe tell us about your program?
Sure. Yeah, that all sounds incredible, what you guys are doing up there. I am in a bit of a different kind of population working in South LA, and I'd say that there are just very few resources in the neighborhoods in general for these kids, let alone kind of extracurricular or less traditional modes of learning or experiencing the world. And so honestly, I think that what has made our program so successful is that we have paid staff that are not part of the school that are running it. It takes a lot of coordination, as all of you probably know, or anyone that's been part of a garden program at a school knows. A lot of coordination to make sure that what's happening in the garden is sustained and that it also supports the kind of instruction that you're trying to do, whether it's cooking or science or math or art, and that doesn't just happen on its own. And so that's the piece that we see is often missing with a lot of schools, is they build a beautiful garden and they get everybody excited, but then if it's one parent that's there that leaves, or one family or one teacher that took a shine to it and then they leave, is that the sustainability component isn't written in. So we find that having, one paid staff person whose job it is to focus on the garden and to work with all the teachers and coordinate volunteers and solicit donations and do all that kind of stuff is really key, has been really key to the success of our program and to other programs in LA in particular.
And how about you, Sarah?
I would say it's a lot of things. I think what makes our garden program successful in part is just that it's really a part of the fabric of the school. So there's garden murals throughout the hallways and festivals throughout the year where we celebrate the garden. So, when things have gotten difficult or funding has dwindled, or over the summer we had challenges keeping our lunch program going with the new standards that were passed. The community has really stepped up over and over again for the past 7 years to raise all of the funds for our 1.5 positions and all of the materials that are required to make the garden work. We also have a really wonderful group of parent volunteers, which makes things go a lot more smoothly. So there's about 13 parents involved. And also, that the teacher and the staff are really enthusiastic. When we started our program, we actually got a grant to hire substitutes to come in so that the regular teachers could help craft the curriculum to actually meet the state standards and benchmarks in the garden. So yeah, it's not that it's a tangential, just getting the kids dirty, which I think is important too, but that we're really addressing all of those subjects through the garden and supplementing what the teachers are trying to do in their classrooms.
That's great. It sounds like, too, hearing, even though you guys are all in 3 very different places with 3 very different structures to how your program works, it sounds like there are some similarities in all of the things that you guys have brought forth, kind of the community buy-in, the curriculum buy-in, and the support from everyone in developing the program. So it's really great. I think I'd like to know how you guys all learned the skills that you each needed in order to successfully run the programs. So do you guys maybe want to speak to that, beginning with Anne again?
Sure. Yeah. When we first started the garden, the first thing that we did was, and I think someone else had talked about this, we bought substitutes for our teachers and spent 2 days just learning about the curriculum and drafting lessons that we were going to use with the garden. And Dr. Rye was very instrumental in bringing curriculum to us. So the buy-in that we have and the partnership that we have with West Virginia University has just been invaluable. Then our partnership with the West Virginia University Extension Service and the Master Gardener program has really helped us to learn about gardening itself. We're teachers. We don't know a lot about gardening. So when we've had insect problems and animal problems and deer issues and groundhog issues, we've turned to them, and they've been an invaluable resource for us. So we have learned just as much as the children have, and it's also when the parents come to help maintain the garden in the summertime, it really helps that they learn just as much as we do, because those master gardeners partner with them and they come to the garden with them in the summertime when they water and maintain, and they do like little mini lessons for the parents, and the parents are very appreciative of that as well because they take it back to their own home gardens. So that helps.
We're constantly learning. Dr. Ryan and I yesterday just met with we're an extremely diverse school, so we're starting an international garden this spring, and we just met with a liaison who represents, she's from China, and we're starting a garden that's just indigenous to China, and so we're learning about all these new, this new produce from China and how to grow it here in West Virginia. So it's really exciting, and I think it's just a constant learning process, and we've got a lot of open minds here. So.
That's fabulous. That's really, really great to hear. And I think you're definitely right on with what skills are you still learning as you go forward. So let's think of those as well. And I also really quickly wanted to remind anybody that's watching that if you have any extra questions, feel free to send them through in the comments on Facebook or Twitter or G+, and or below on the YouTube video. So you can tag them at FoodRev, and we'll be watching to see if we can add them to our conversation. So Julia, let's jump to you and hear what skills you're still learning, and how you learned what you needed to know to get your garden up and running.
What I might add to that, which may be useful, I think that's not me. That's okay. What I might add to that is the biggest lesson for me has been in community organizing, I think, and in outreach, and in learning how to connect with lots of different people from lots of different places in this city, and realizing that there is so much that the community has to offer if you know how to access it. And that's something that I would recommend to anybody working in a school garden or starting a school garden, is just to use your community and get really creative about it, because we have found so many different resources in very many unlikely places random skills that the parents have that could help out building or crafting different things. I know the Edible Schoolyard, there's a lot of that up there as well. To local mechanics, helping us build stoves, to people helping us build solar ovens, and donations of resources. So I think, me learning how the skills that I had to learn to make this program successful. I think one of the main ones was really just in community outreach and community organizing on many different levels.
Great. Sarah, do you maybe want to share with us how you learned what you needed to know?
Sure. Well, certainly one of the skills that's been most helpful that I learned in previous work is grant writing. So unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of your programs are the same. We really don't have any support from the district or the state as of yet, although Oregon is working on passing legislation to make that happen, and I think that's really important. A lot of my time is spent just cobbling together the funds to keep things going, and that's always challenging. Managing volunteers is something I'm always learning more about, and we're also lucky enough to have help from all the local universities, the neighborhood association. People are really passionate about this when they get involved. I'd really recommend checking out a school garden coordinator training program model in Portland through the organization Growing Gardens. I took their 45-hour training when I started working at Abernathy, and it's just wonderful. Everything from year-round planting to program promotion to outreach into the community, and that was really helpful. And that organization, Growing Gardens, has also helped build a web statewide of school garden educators and coordinators, so we're all working together, and that provides a lot of support for our program as well.
And I think, Sarah, what you point to with funding streams is a major part of the questions and comments that we actually received from people in the wider community who had questions about school gardens and how to start and sustain the programs. And I think that question of sort of how you ensure the sustainability of the program is obviously a very big one when you begin or are trying to envision a program at your school. And Julia, you mentioned that you have, a paid member on your staff that is able to support the garden, and that you also have 100% buy-in from teachers at your school. So I'm wondering if you could speak to your funding streams and how you sustained, an outside person to come in and manage your garden program.
Sure, I'd say like Sarah, it's been a real crash course in grant writing as well, and I think that's the big issue facing everybody, right? Is that you can get supply donations, you can get volunteers. There's a lot of things that you can get that are essential without spending any money. But what you can't get is somebody's salary. And so we do tons of things. We hold fundraisers every year to support the salaries of the people on staff. I'm writing grants constantly. We're soliciting donations from local businesses. It's bringing people down just to try and find these webs to financial support in the city. Getting people excited, and then they tell other people, and kind of word spreads, and you just try and build a network of support in your city. I feel like there is the potential for support out there, but accessing it is really a big job, and I wouldn't underestimate the importance of it and the difficulty of it as well. Yeah.
I think it ties into with what you were saying before about knowing how to access your community and being creative in that space of accessing when you speak to people, learning how to speak to people, to see what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, and I'm not to that one of the cool things about this is, you know, asking people for support and asking them for money for something is something that is really intimidating for a lot of people. But the thing about the work that we're all doing is that everybody supports it, really. I mean, there are very few people that don't see the extraordinary value in this work and in gardens for kids. So it's actually really empowering to be able to educate your community about this and bring them on board and get their support. And it's great lessons for kids. I mean, I have kids that will call me from other schools and ask for help on how to write letters to local businesses, asking for donations and stuff like that. And those are all great skills for kids to learn. How to present something in a mature and professional way, and, you know, how to really sell something that you believe in so strongly. And I think it is empowering for people. And there, you know, and you can be creative. There are a lot of different ways to crack that chestnut.
Great, thank you. And we're going to turn back to you for a minute. As you were joined with all of your teaching staff, we were wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how you integrate the garden into your curriculum. And then an additional question that was popular in our community was, what do you do with the garden in the winter?
Great question. So I'll go ahead and let these three, because they're the driving force of the curriculum, talk to that.
Okay, well, I think it's, you know, I teach kindergarten, and so it's just sort of a natural, because our curriculum is hands-on anyway, and so it's been a real natural transfer for us. And, you know, obviously tons of science lessons and math, and a little harder to maybe think about, but certainly using it in language arts and reading. But I think one of the greatest things for my kids has been the transfer from the, because a big stage of development for 5- and 6-year-olds is to transfer the concrete to the abstract. And so when we track the growth of the garden, to talk about what's, right now we're growing carrots in a grow lab, an indoor grow lab, which speaks to what we do in the winter. We have indoor grow labs. And so we're growing carrots, and one of the things I asked them to do in their science journals was to just to draw, to represent what they saw, and a lot of them drew the carrot because they know what a carrot looks like. And then we had to talk about the fact that you don't see the carrots, and so they had to represent that was below the ground and that the green tops were above the ground. And so that's just, it's something, the stage they need to go through, and so it's been a real, you know, that transfer from the concrete to abstract has been important for them.
And the students, they enjoy the lessons so much, and they get so excited. We planted strawberries in our classroom in the fall, and we have had strawberry shortcake. And the kids, you know, did a lot of math integration. They would measure the plants, how tall they were getting, count the leaves, the blooms, make bar graphs from how many strawberries were on each plant. And these were ideas they came up with. So it's kind of putting the learning in their hands, and they get to come up with the ideas, and they get to say, well, what if we did this, and what if we did that? And that makes them more excited about learning, and it makes them more, it gives them the responsibility to do the learning, and they want to know these things, so they go for it.
And about the winter, really, you can't overemphasize the importance of what you can do inside the classroom, and then at the same time start to view your raised bed as part of your classroom, even though it's outside. So, for example, as Laura had mentioned, we have grow cart systems with lights, a variety of different ones in the classroom. Lately, we've been using earth boxes with trellises. Right now, in addition to the strawberry projects growing in the classroom, we have a bean project, we have a gourd project, and there are others. And so the idea is that the students and teachers learn quite a bit about how to successfully raise these crops in the classroom, and can make some decisions then about what they want to plant outside. Last winter, we finished our outdoor harvesting probably by the end of September, and we got through an experiment that grades 4 wanted to do. We got quite a bit of spinach in the ground, and with some low tunnels and cold frames, we harvested abundant spinach all winter long. It was fantastic. Now this year, our growing season, we didn't even finish harvesting until the middle of October, and for some reason or other, we did not get our greens in soon enough. So we're not doing much winter gardening this year, but from now on, we will.
I think the issue of garden maintenance for cold weather and also summer is a large question for people who submitted their own questions when we were calling for them. And Sarah, I'm actually interested. I visited Abernathy in July and saw lots of things still growing. So I was wondering if you could sort of give us some idea of how the garden is managed when the summertime comes.
Yeah, absolutely. A few things have really helped us with maintenance in the summer. One is just a pretty simple watering sign up that parents and some of our older kids actually come and do regularly throughout the summer to help with that. We also installed a drip irrigation line on a timer, so that makes it easier for a neighbor to come by and turn it on for an hour and then come back and turn it off rather than watering, although some people like to do that too. But 3 years ago, we started hosting summer camp, and now we're up to 6 weeks of summer camp a year. And we spread it out so that the maintenance is easier, and we have 2 different theme camps. One is based more around cooking, and we actually use the school cafeteria and cook a big feast with the kids every day during that camp using a lot of produce from the garden. And then the other one is more based just on gardening, and at the end of the 4-day camp we hold a big farmers market right there at the school outside of the garden. So that actually is my favorite time of the year, because although I love the academic rigor of the rest of our curriculum, to just get in the dirt and turn what we're growing into beautiful food for the kids and their families that come and get them from the summer camp has been not only wonderful for us, but really helped with the maintenance of the garden. And in the Northwest, we can plant a whole nother round of veggies in July or August, and then it's ready in the early winter. So it's helped us with abundance throughout the year.
Great. So as we've been chatting, there's been loads of comments coming in from the community that we've been seeing, and we're going to invite Jacqueline to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your interest in these gardens, and maybe share with us the questions that are coming in from the community.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Fairbrass. I live about half an hour outside of Seattle, Washington, and I'm pretty new here. And one of the things that excites me about this is that I brought up my own children to be in the garden and to eat right. I'm seeing my grandchildren doing that. I'd really like to be able to share with the community and sort of give back, if you like. But I'm in a small town, and I don't know a lot of people. Listening to you and your passion, I'm kind of thinking I maybe need to go out and hang out with some teachers and buy them some cups of coffee and see who I can get in with. But what's the one bit of advice you'd give to someone like me who wants to get started and wants to get involved and would love to see this spreading here? And I'm open to anybody who's got some advice for me.
I think one of the first things that you need to do is to allocate funding, because it does cost. There is a cost issue with buying the seeds and the dirt itself and planting the beds, and then also figuring out what the buy-in is going to be with the teachers and developing some curriculum. I think those were our 2 main issues from getting started.
And I would say do just that. Go to your local schools and see if there's buy-in. I mean, Dr. Rye, unfortunately, he had to leave, but he approached us from the university. And so, we were an excited school that jumped on to his idea, and I think you're going to find that. You just need to reach out. And I would say local colleges and universities are a huge, huge resource in all areas, from curriculum to their extension program. So just reaching out to them as well is another.
And offering to be the grant writer.
Yeah.
If you offer that you will write the grant to get the money,
you got it.
Someone will, a principal will say, do it. That's what happened to us.
And just sort of to go along with that question, another question that we had was sort of how do you keep in mind the balance between what teachers want, what a district wants, what parents want, and what's actually manageable. So as you're sort of balancing all of these people, I think that's been sort of a challenge that the community had asked us to consider. If you guys want to.
For our program in Portland, it's been quite a difficult dance at times of really working together with the district, both utilities with garden installation and kind of expanding our garden, applying for permits every time we have to do that, and then working with nutrition services cooperatively. But I also think that our programs require being a little bit of a thorn in the side of the public school system or the city or whomever to advocate for these programs and their presence in the public school system. So sometimes it's taken a little bit more push than you might think, but I think that's important.
And from a teacher's viewpoint, I think it's important for when you're presenting your idea to start a garden, is that they don't need to make it extra. It doesn't have to be another thing that you have to do during the day. It doesn't have to be an extra thing that you have to add on. It is, you incorporate it in too. So I'm teaching so many of my Common Core standards by using my garden. So instead of opening a textbook, you get to go outside.
Yeah, and I think that's an important aspect as far as juggling the district is, we're teaching the standards and we're getting that the academic piece in there with garden-based learning. So
I love that. I hadn't considered that aspect of it. I was thinking very much in a separate box. This is the gardening box. This is nutrition, but like hearing you talk about integrating the other aspects of schooling, it makes so much sense, and it's very holistic. It's beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. That's popped me out of the box there.
Mm-hmm. So Jacqueline, I don't know if you have the question from our community member, Amanda Moskia. So I'm hoping that you might let us know what her question was, and then Sarah, if you might want to answer it, I'd be interested in hearing.
Jacqueline, I think you're on mute. I think you're still muted.
Okay, I'm back again. The wonders of technology. Amanda wanted to know what is the best thing to grow to incorporate the garden into school lunches and cooking activities. She teaches cooking classes to kids, and the hardest thing that she's sort of having is enough produce to actually incorporate things into a recipe. So it sounds like you'd be the people who'd have the answers for that one.
Oh, sure. Well, so yeah, we've used a lot of the produce in our school lunch program. In fact, every day, even during the winter, our goal is to just make whatever food we're bringing in from the garden visible on the salad bar, or kale on the pizza. And part of the success of that for us has been really good signage. So even if we just have some arugula or a few greens on a cold, rainy February day, we have one of the garden classes make a big sign and celebrate that every day the kids have a hand in what's being served in the cafeteria. I think the things they get most excited about, at least in the below 10 age range are root vegetables, the magic of pulling something out of the earth. And edible flowers are really beautiful and can sometimes be a gateway to trying other things. And then odd things. We love to grow, the weird purple carrot or shiso, spinach, or some herbs that they've never heard of that they enjoy trying something that they've never had before.
Great, thank you so much.
We've had a lot of success cooking in our classroom. We are currently exploring being able to serve our food in the cafeteria. That's something that is a goal of ours for this year. But these two ladies can talk about some cooking that they've done with their students as far as incorporating the garden into their classrooms.
Yeah, well, one of the, a book that I always use, a book called Potluck, and a traditional activity I'd always done is the kids celebrate the end of it and kind of express the meaning. What the book means is all the kids brought in a food from home. And so this year, since my last, and you had to bring a food that started with the letter of your first name, and since my name is Van Horn, I brought vegetables from the garden. And so it was a way that, it was not only what I was sharing, but they brought it in. And again, in small amounts, because we did the same thing, it's hard to serve all 24 kids, with the, to make a whole salad out of our garden bed. It was just a taste of something that we were sampling, and all the kids brought something in, and then that was the, and I just brought an electric skillet in, and we just, cooked up the greens and the beets to serve them. So not everybody tried it, but.
And we've made salsa and pizza and green beans in a crock pot.
And we've tried radishes for the first time. Some of the kids got to try radishes last year. We made strawberries.
That's great. This has been really, really wonderful, guys. I think that there's been a lot of information from each of you for everybody watching. So that we've really added to, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, sorry. I think it's been a really wonderful conversation, and so we really wanted to thank all of you guys for joining us today, and really appreciate it. And we wanted to remind the community that we're going to continue the conversation online, so please do continue to send through your questions, and we'll be checking back in with all of our participants today with any questions that come through, and we'll be sharing them on our website, jamiesfoodrevolution.com, and the Edible Schoolyard's website, which is edibleschoolyard.org, and also on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag #GrowingFoodEd, and we will keep in touch with all of that. I was wondering if all of you guys could actually, as you sign off, just give us one inspiring lesson that you guys have led in your garden as we say goodbye.
There's a ton of stuff you can do with ABCs, and the little kids make ABC garden books, and you can also do that as like an ABC scavenger hunt, which is always really, really fun. It's super simple. You don't need anything extra, and you have kids work in pairs and find the entire alphabet in the garden.
Thank you, Julia. Anne and team?
Sure.
One thing we didn't mention that has been a project we've started is we have vermicomposting in many of the classrooms, which is composting with worms. So we have worm bins, which sounds disgusting to the kids at first, but actually watching to say they're our class pet, I guess the kids have gotten involved because they're there and they watch, like if they have leftover cucumbers at lunch or whatever, as long as they haven't eaten off of it, we put that in and watch that composted. And we did. I introduced the word inquiry with them a couple weeks ago, where they had to design the question. So it incorporated language arts because they had to learn what a question was, and then they had to, sort of explore the scientific method with, what questions can we answer about our worms just, right here and now. So.
And another great lesson that I've done 3 years now is on homonyms. And so we use the garden as our basis to start teaching homonyms, homophones, and homographs with the kids. So we take them on a tour of the garden, and then we come back and we talk about what an example of a homograph and homophone is. And then we encourage them to come up with homographs and homophones by using garden words. And then they use them in context so that we know that they understand the meaning. And this year, it's been phenomenal. The kids still are talking about homographs and homophones. Every time a word comes up, they're like, hey, doesn't tell mean this too? And I'm like, yes, so what would that be? They're like, that's a homograph. And so they get so excited. It's a really great lesson.
And Sarah.
Yeah, one of my favorite lessons is with our fifth graders when they're studying the history of Oregon and the journey of Lewis and Clark. And so we look at what foods did Lewis and Clark eat on their journey across Oregon, and even sample some of the things that they tried, like the native Wapato lily. So for them to be able to actually learn about the history and try the food. We've actually taken our lessons and with colleagues in Portland published a compendium of our curriculum, which you're welcome to check out. It's available for free on eatthinkgrow.org.
Great. Thank you all. We've had a wonderful time talking with you, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions, and Jacqueline for the voice of the community, and my co-host Julianne. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.